Lolo Enki TV.
The Law of One. Book 4. Session 84. The 14th of April, 1982. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. The physical complex energy level of the instrument is in sizable deficit. The vital energies are well. Questioner, in the last session you mentioned the least distorted complex protein for the instrument since its body complex was capable of greatly increased distortion. Would you define the protein of which you spoke and in which direction is the increased distortion, towards health or ill health? Ra, I am Ra. We were, in the cautionary statement about complex protein, referring to the distortions of the animal protein which has been slaughtered and preservatives added in order to maintain the acceptability to your peoples of this non-living, physical material. It is well to attempt to find those items which are fresh and of the best quality possible in order to avoid increasing this particular entity's distortions, which may be loosely termed allergic. We were speaking of the distortion towards disease which is potential at this space or time. Questioner, the instrument asked the following question. Ra has implied that the instrument is on the path of martyrdom, but since we all die, are we not all martyred to something, and when, if ever, does martyrdom partake of wisdom? Ra, I am Ra. This is a thoughtful query. Let us use as exemplar the one known as Jehoshua. This entity incarnated with the plan of martyrdom. There is no wisdom in this plan but rather understanding and compassion extended to its fullest perfection. The one known as Jehoshua would have been less than fully understanding of its course had it chosen to follow its will at any space or time during its teachings. Several times, as you call this measure, this entity had the possibility of moving towards the martyr's place, which was, for that martyr, Jerusalem. Yet in meditation this entity stated, time and again, it is not yet the hour. The entity could also have, when the hour came, walked another path. Its incarnation would then have been prolonged, but the path for which it incarnated somewhat confused. Thusly, one may observe the greatest amount of understanding, of which this entity was indeed capable, taking place as the entity in meditation felt and knew that the hour had come for that to be fulfilled which was its incarnation. It is indeed so that all mind or body spirit complexes shall die to the third density illusion, that is, that each yellow ray physical complex body shall cease to be viable. It is a misnomer to, for this reason alone, call each mind or body spirit complex a martyr, for this term is reserved for those who lay down their lives for the service they may provide to others. We may encourage meditation upon the functions of the will. Questioner, the instrument asked if the restricted, unpublishable healing information that was given during the first book could be included in Book 4, since readers who have gotten that far will be dedicated somewhat. Ra, I am Ra. This publication of material shall, in time, shall we say, be appropriate. There is intervening material. Questioner, going back to the previous session, you stated that each sexual activity was a transfer before the veil. Would you trace the flow of energy that is transferred and tell me if that was the planned activity or a planned transfer by the designing logos? Ra, I am Ra. The path of energy transfer before the veiling during the sexual intercourse was that of the two entities possessed of green ray capability. The awareness of all as creator is that which opens the green energy center. Thusly there was no possibility of blockage due to the sure knowledge of each by each that each was the creator. The transfers were weak due to the ease with which such transfers could take place between any two polarized entities during sexual intercourse. Questioner: what I was getting at, precisely, was, for example, when we close an electrical circuit it is easy to trace the path of current. It goes along the conductor. I am trying to determine whether this transfer is between the green energy centers, the heart chakras. I am trying to trace the physical flow of the energy to try to get an idea of blockages after the veil. I may be off on the wrong track here, but if I am wrong we'll just drop it. Can you tell me something about that? Ra, I am Ra. In such a drawing or schematic representation of the circuitry of two mind or body spirits or mind or body spirit complexes in sexual or other energy transfer, the circuit opens always at the red or base center and moves as possible through the intervening energy centers. If baffled it will stop at orange. If not, it shall proceed to yellow. If still unbaffled it shall proceed to green. It is well to remember in the case of the mind or body spirit that the chakras or energy centers could well be functioning without crystallization. Questioner: in other words, they would be functioning but it would be equivalent in an electrical circuitry to having a high resistance, shall we say, and although the circuit would be complete, red through green, the total quantity of energy transferred would be less. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. We might most closely associate your query with the concept of voltage. The uncrystallized, lower centers cannot deliver the higher voltage. The crystallized centers may become quite remarkable in the high voltage characteristics of the energy transfer as it reaches green ray, and indeed as green ray is crystallized this also applies to the higher energy centers until such energy transfers become an onestation for the creator. Questioner: would you please correct me on this statement? I am guessing that what happens is that when a transfer takes place the energy is that light energy that comes in through the feet of the entity, and the voltage or potential difference is measured between the red energy center and, in the case of the green ray transfer, the green energy center, and then must leap or flow from the green energy center of one entity to the green energy center of the other, and then something happens to it. Could you clarify my thinking on that? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner: would you please do that? Ra, I am Ra. The energy transfer occurs in one releasing of the potential difference. This does not leap between green and green energy centers but is the sharing of the energies of each from red ray upwards. In this context it may be seen to be at its most efficient when both entities have orgasm simultaneously. However, it functions as transfer if either has the orgasm, and indeed in the case of the physically expressed love between a mated pair which does not have the conclusion you call orgasm there is, nonetheless, a considerable amount of energy transferred due to the potential difference which has been raised as long as both entities are aware of this potential and release its strength to each other by desire of the will in a mental or mind complex dedication. You may see this practice as being used to generate energy transfers in some of your practices of what you may call other than Christian religious distortion systems of the law of one. Questioner, could you give me an example of that last statement? Ra, I am Ra. We preface this example with the reminder that each system is quite distorted and its teachings always half lost. However, one such system is that called the Tantric Yoga. Questioner, considering individual and individual B, if individual experiences the orgasm is the energy, then, transferred to individual B in a greater amount. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. Your query is incomplete. Please restate. Questioner, I am trying to determine whether the direction of energy transfer is a function of orgasm. Which entity gets the transferred energy? I know it's a dumb question, but I want to be sure that I have it cleared up. Ra, I am Ra. If both entities are well polarized and vibrating in green ray love, any orgasm shall offer equal energy to both. Questioner, I see. Before the veil, can you describe any other physical difference that we haven't talked about yet with respect to the sexual energy transfers or relationships or anything prior to veiling? Ra, I am Ra. Perhaps the most critical difference of the veiling, before and after, was that before the mind, body, and spirit were veiled, entities were aware that each energy transfer and, indeed, very nearly all that proceeds from any intercourse, social or sexual, between two entities has its character and substance into mere space rather than space or time. The energies transferred during the sexual activity are not, properly speaking, of space or time. There is a great component of what you may call metaphysical energy transferred. Indeed, the body complex as a whole is greatly misunderstood due to the post-veiling assumption that the physical manifestation called the body is subject only to physical stimuli. This is emphatically not so. Questioner, after the veil, in our particular case now, we have, in the circuitry of which we were speaking, what you call blockages. Could you describe what occurs with the first blockage and what its effects are on each of the entities, assuming that one blocks and the other does not, or if both are blocked? Ra, I am Ra. This material has been covered previously. If both entities are blocked, both will have an increased hunger for the same activity, seeking to unblock the baffled flow of energy. If one entity is blocked and the other vibrates in love, the entity baffled will hunger still but have a tendency to attempt to continue the procedure of satiating the increasing hunger with the one vibrating green ray due to an impression that this entity might prove helpful in this endeavor. The green ray active individual shall polarize slightly in the direction of service to others but have only the energy with which it began. Questioner, I didn't mean to cover previously covered material. What I was actually attempting to do was discover something new in asking the question, so please, if I ask any questions in the future that have already been covered, don't bother to repeat the material. I am just searching the same area for the possibility of greater enlightenment with respect to this particular area, since it seems to be one of the major areas of experience in our present condition of veiling that produces a very large amount of catalyst, and I am trying to understand, To use a poor term, how this veiling process created a greater experience and how this experience evolved. These questions are very difficult to ask. It occurs to me that many statues or drawings of the one known as Lucifer or the devil are shown with an erection. Is this a function of orange ray blockage, and was this known in a minimal way by those who devised these statues and drawings? Ra, I am Ra. There is, of course, much other distortion involved in a discussion of any mythic archetypical form. However, we may answer in the affirmative and note that you are perceptive. Questioner, with respect to the green, blue, and indigo transfers of energy, how would the mechanism for these transfers differ from the orange ray mechanism in making them possible or setting the groundwork for them? I know this is very difficult to ask and I may not be making any sense, but what I am trying to do is gain an understanding of the foundation for the transfers in each of the rays and the preparations for the transfers or the fundamental requirements or biases and potentials for these transfers. Could you expand on that for me, please? I am sorry for the poor question. Ra, I am Ra. We would take a moment to state in reply to a previous comment that we shall answer each query whether or not it has been previously covered, for not to do so would be to baffle the flow of quite another transfer of energy. To respond to your query, we firstly wish to agree with your supposition that the subject you now query upon is a large one, for in it lies an entire system of opening the gateway to intelligent infinity. You may see that some information is necessarily shrouded in mystery by our desire to preserve the free will of the adept. The great key to blue, indigo, and finally, that great capital of the column of sexual energy transfer, violet energy, transfers, is the metaphysical bond or distortion which has the name among your peoples of unconditional love. In the blue-ray energy transfer, the quality of this love is refined in the fire of honest communication and clarity. This, shall we say, normally speaking in general, takes a substantial portion of your space or time to accomplish, although there are instances of matings so well refined in previous incarnations and so well remembered that the blue-ray may be penetrated at once. This energy transfer is of great benefit to the seeker in that all communication from this seeker is, thereby, refined and the eyes of honesty and clarity look upon a new world. Such is the nature of blue-ray energy and such is one mechanism of potentiating and crystallizing it. As we approach indigo ray transfer, we find ourselves in a shadowland. We cannot give you information straight out or plain, for this is seen by us to be an infringement. We cannot speak at all of violet ray transfer as we do not, again, desire to break the law of confusion. We may say that these jewels, though dearly bought, are beyond price for the seeker and might suggest that just as each awareness is arrived at through a process of analysis, synthesis, and inspiration, so should the seeker approach its mate and evaluate each experience, seeking the jewel. Questioner, is there any way to tell which ray the transfer was for an individual after the experience? Ra, I am Ra. There is only a subjective yardstick or measure of such. If the energies have flowed so that love is made whole, green ray transfer has taken place. If, by the same entity's exchange, greater ease in communication and greater sight has been experienced, the energy has been refined to the blue ray energy center. If the polarized entities, by this same energy transfer experience, find that the faculties of will and faith have been stimulated, not for a brief while but for a great duration of what you call time, you may perceive the indigo ray transfer. We may not speak of the violet ray transfer except to note that it is an opening to the gateway of intelligent infinity. Indeed, the indigo ray transfer is also this, but, shall we say, the veil has not yet been lifted. Questioner: did most Lorgo plan, before the veil, to create a system of random sexual activity or the specific pairing of entities for specific periods of time, or did they have an objective in this respect? Ra: I am Ra. This shall be the last full query of this working. The harvest from the previous creation was that which included the male and female mind or Bodhi spirit. It was the intention of the original Lorgo that entities mate with one another in any fashion which caused a greater polarization. It was determined, after observation of the process of many Lorgo, that polarization increased many-fold if the mating were not indiscriminate. Consequent Lorgo thusly preserved a bias towards the mated relationship which is more characteristic of more disciplined personalities and of what you may call higher densities. The free will of each entity, however, was always paramount and a bias only could be offered. May we ask if there may be any brief queries before we leave this instrument? Questioner: is there any way that we can make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Ra: I am Ra. We would ask that each of the support group be especially vigilant in the, what you would call, immediate future due to this instrument's unbidden but serious potential for increased distortion towards illness or health. You are most conscientious. We thank you, my friends, and leave you in the glorious light and love of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.